Are we indeed living through a revolution? In fact, are we living through a number of revolutions happening simultaneously? And how much can society take of sudden change? So that's what today's video is all about. If you stick around, I'm going to talk about the 6 revolutions that I think have happened in the space of the last year and continue to unfold. So before I start, if you do like my content, then please do subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And I'll start off with naming what I see are the 6 revolutions. So I see a political revolution, an economic revolution, a health revolution, a social revolution, an AI revolution, and a media revolution. So we'll go through those one by one. Obviously, what happens during a revolution, it is a time of upheaval and turbulent change that affects society. And at the end of the revolution, society looks a lot different than it did before it started. So the first one, a political revolution. Well, in this country, in the UK, I would certainly argue that the political environment is like nothing that we've ever seen before. The government has a scary amount of power, which has been voluntarily given to it by the citizens. Power whereby sweeping reforms can be passed through Parliament with a moment's notice. We have a political revolution whereby it appears that all of the parties within our Parliament are all espousing the same policies, and there is not many dissenting voices at all. And political revolution in terms of the balance of power between the state and the individual. And the balance of power is tipped massively and scarily towards the state, towards the government. A government that is completely unchallenged by other parties within Parliament. And what that means is that our freedoms, our civil liberties have been largely removed from us with no sign of them coming back. That, in my opinion, is a political revolution. A revolution that is certainly not for the good of the people, and one that we should be very, very scared of and prepared to be ready to push back against. So that's the first one. Some people obviously already are. The second, the economic revolution. Well, let's look at the situation that we've got. Money being printed left, right and centre on a ridiculous scale that we've never seen before, even after the previous financial crash in 2007 to 2009. We have some people getting paid for doing nothing. Millions of people getting paid for doing nothing. And millions of other people told that they can't open their businesses. So you've got some people getting paid for doing nothing, and other people who don't have the environment in which to operate with because it's against the law. So an economic revolution as well in terms of a whole-scale shift of a wealth transfer, again away from individuals to large corporations and to central banks. And again, this isn't a revolution that's going to liberate the people. In fact, it's the opposite. The free market economy, as we know it, obviously there's always been arguments for and against the free market economy, and it's an interesting debate. The free market economy, as I understand it, in the UK in the last 30 to 40 years, has the potential to work for anybody if they're a striver, if they're ambitious, if they're aspirational, if they have a product or a service that they want to bring to the world. Then the free market economy in itself is genius because it has economically liberated many people. Well, we don't really have that now with the demolition and the demise of small business, which is the backbone and always has been of the British economy. And what's replaced it is an exponential growth in power of huge multinational, multi-billion-pound firms that are increasing their market share and increasingly getting something close to a monopoly. You talk about like the Amazons of this world, for example. So that's the economic revolution that's taking place. A health revolution, well, I think we're living in a health tyranny. I think it's hard to argue against that. tens of billions of pounds of taxpayer money being spent on flawed and unnecessary testing regimes. Insane in my mind. The whole idea of testing healthy people queuing up in their thousands to go and get tested, even though they feel completely healthy simply because they've been told to. That is a health tyranny right there. Our freedoms being largely dictated to by the relative performance of the NHS or non-performance of the NHS. And now obviously the vaccine as well, and the basic government coercion into citizens to get the vaccine, and the blackmail that's taking place, the emotional blackmail, and also the carrot and the stick. The carrot, if there's the carrot, if you get the vaccine, you can give some freedoms back, and the stick, just as in if you don't wear a mask, if you don't social distance, if you don't follow all of the rules slavishly, now if you don't get the vaccine, then you're a threat to your fellow citizen, and you should be ashamed of that. So it's a health tyranny. That's the health revolution. And what now is a healthy person? Is a healthy person somebody who goes out, gets exercise, eats well? Is that a healthy person? Or is a healthy person someone who goes regularly to get tested for diseases that they don't know they have, that they probably haven't got, and are getting regular vaccines? Is that a way of us proving that we're healthy now? Is that the way it's going? So definitely a health revolution taking place. Social revolution, where you need look no further than out your window. Just observe people to see this taking place. People jumping out of each other's way on the streets, people wearing masks. I see people behaving in ways now that would have shocked them if they could, previous version of themselves, a pre-indoctrinated version of themselves, if they could see the way they're behaving, they would be utterly shocked. That's not even getting into the fact that there are terrible, heartbreaking scenarios playing out across society at the moment that seemingly most people who aren't being affected by it aren't paying any attention to it. They're either oblivious or they are aware, and they're going like that. They don't want to look. So there is a social revolution taking place at the moment whereby society is becoming more and more atomized and fragmented, and people are looking upon each other with more suspicion. Are we nothing more than walking germ machines now who must be avoided at all costs? And a social revolution as well. And we're living our lives increasingly in front of a screen now in this virtual world of no human contact. There's no kind of like emotional connection there. It's very sanitized, isn't it? So that's the social revolution that's taking place. AI revolution, which was already in place. The replacement of manual jobs by robotics and artificial intelligence, that was already taking place. And what a crisis does is it does exacerbate previous trends. It acts as a catalyst for previous trends, whether those trends are good or bad. That's what tends to happen. We've seen that in the shift to working from home. That was already starting to become a trend in the economy. But AI revolution, what threat will that pose? Not only to jobs, but again, towards the functioning of society. It's becoming harder to speak to people in many different guises at the moment. Not only to see friends and family, to see public arenas and public spaces, the censorship that's happening on social media, but also when you want to contact companies and businesses, you go on the live chat and you've got a bot. Oh, my name is such and such. I am not human. I can help you with your problem. Blah, blah, blah. You ring up to get a problem solved, maybe with your gas and electricity, or you're renewing your internet, or whatever it is. And, it's difficult to speak to somebody. So that's the AI revolution that's taking place, with the smart meters, the electric cars and all the rest of it as well. all the macro and micro technology that's starting to take over our lives. And a media revolution, which may not yet, well, it is actually taking place. It is. And the media revolution is ultimately the mainstream media. Will it eat itself alive? I think, and I pray that it does. Now, I have no words to describe my contempt, hatred, disdain for the mainstream media. I'm not going to swear on this video, but I have no words for the malevolence that they display and the pure evil and poison, spite negativity, bile that they spew out and pump out into people's brains. I have no words for that. There's no word base enough to describe the depth of my feeling that I have for our mainstream media. Alongside that, you have channels such as this, and I am trying to speak my personal truth. Not trying to, I am speaking my personal truth, trying to bring value, trying to bring some, broaden the debate, bring some honesty to the discussion, a different angle. And thousands and hundreds of thousands of people are doing that. And this is what I would call the new media, which is kind of like micro media, really, a much more personal type of media, but which delivers opinion and angles, maybe on the news or on society, as I try and, deliver my opinion on society and the individual's place on it. That's the new media. But I think the people who make up the new media are challenging the mainstream narrative on a lot of different topics. So will the mainstream media ultimately meet its demise? Hopefully. And I think yes, because I think more and more people are waking up to what they really are and what they're doing and how they're polluting this country, how they are destroying society by their malicious and malign messaging every single day. So yes, I think in time that could happen. And you have to ask yourself the question, why are so many of these new media outlets being censored? Well, the reason is because they are bringing some uncomfortable truths to the table. I've had one of my videos censored simply for speaking my truth, simply for expressing an opinion, and more to the point, challenging the mainstream narrative and the mainstream media narrative and the government narrative. So ask yourself those questions. Why are so many people who are speaking out and who have taken risks in speaking out, why are they being censored? It's pretty obvious, because there's some uncomfortable truths that they're bringing. So that's the last of the revolutions. Now the question then is, okay, well, is revolution bad or good? I am more of the opinion, I'm all evolution, not revolution. I don't like revolutions. I don't like the idea of revolutions. I understand why revolutions have taken place, not only in this country, but in countries right across the world at different points in time. And that ultimately they've created and brought about a massive change in society and reinvented the look of society and the feel of society, how that society and its people work and interact with each other. But to have this many revolutions, some people call it the fourth industrial revolution, which is happening right now, and I would agree with that. But I'm going more deep into it. What else makes up this fourth industrial revolution? What are the different strands to it? So yeah, political, economic, health, social, AI and media. Can a society absorb that much rapid change in a short amount of time without mass suffering? Well, quite clearly, no. And quite clearly, it's not. So we are living in a period of massive and turbulent upheaval and change. So they're the different strands to the revolution that is taking place at the moment, as I see it. So please let me know what you think. Do you agree with that? What I've said? Do you not agree with it? And how has this revolution affected you? And what do you think about the concept of evolution, revolution? What do you think about the concept of change? And how are you adaptable to change, or are you not? So please let me know what you think about this video, and yeah, I'll be back soon, and try and have a great weekend. All right, bye bye, see ya.